You're listening to the Bathtub Refinishing Podcast.
Powered by Bathtub Guys Refinishing. We discuss the refinishing industry, interview owners and operators, and give tips to business owners and entrepreneurs. Now, here's your host, Daniel Montalvo.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. I am going to be talking about some fun subjects today on this podcast. First things first, new regions and where we're looking for partners. I guess I'll just start there. So we do have some locations that we're probably going to pursue ourselves, but we do have interest in certain locations. I have a lot of people that are interested in something in the California region. So Southern California in particular. I know some of you have reached out in the past, but we have not yet been ready to get that whole thing off the ground. But if you are in the Southern California area, I would say reach out if you are interested in having a Bathtub Guys location out there. Realistically, the biggest reason that we haven't done it is a great market over there. But one of the main reasons we haven't done it is because you do need a contractor license, okay? It's not something that I'm going to pursue for you, but if you have your contractor license already, to be able to do refinishing work legally, and you want to be part of the Bathtub Guys team, that is definitely a place where I have no personal ambition to go myself. But if you do, and you're in Southern California alreday, you see what we're doing, you like what we're doing, you want a proven system to make sure that you're running a good Bathtub Guys location, use Bathtub Cast, all those things. That is an area that we are eyeing. More stuff also in the Midwest. So Chicago area, I'm not too crazy about. I'm kind of going to try to focus myself on the Southeast region and Northeast region of the United States. Anything in the Midwest though. Chicago is a good one. We are also looking for more people in the Kansas City area, and so on and so forth. If there's an area that I didn't name, be sure to reach out if you have interest. North Carolina is a market where there's potential as well. Something that maybe we might pursue, but I have a couple other things cooking up for Florida, specifically Miami area, Fort Lauderdale, all of that stuff. We probably are just going to in-house those things, those places, but we shall see how that continues. Again, eventually we'll probably do it ourselves if somebody doesn't, but if someone is interested in a location and wants to partner, I am willing to partner with people always. So that is something if it interests you. Pennsylvania too, Pittsburgh area or Philadelphia. Those places are also places that we're looking for people. Again, if not, we'll just do it ourselves. Moving on though. So I've had this issue come up recently. I don't know if anybody else has ever had an issue quite like this, where you have a local competitor or a local company that has a similar name to yours. So we use Bathtub Guys. We've owned the domain since the dawn of the internet, back when network solutions had monopolies on all domain names. So probably around still in the 90s or early 2000s, my dad has owned that domain name for years and years and years. And that being said, we started using the Bathtub Guys name primarily around 2018, but it was always bathtubguys.com. People referenced us as the Bathtub Guys. We didn't use the Bathtub Guys name way back when, partially because back in the old days, I've talked about this before, but Google was a big encyclopedia. So they would show things in alphabetical order. They later changed that to intent-based search because people would not keep scrolling pages to find what they wanted. They, especially with services or businesses, they would go to the first things that they saw. And that's why there's triple A, there's AAA, dry cleaning, that's those old companies from that time. So we always had companies with A's, back in the old days when it was before my time, but my dad always had his refinishing companies with names with A's. starting, like Alamo Refinishers. He had one called a Vadco. There was a couple different like iterations of that. The Alamo Refinishers one being from like his old days in Massachusetts. But we were mistaken for a local competitor whose name, they just go by like Tub Guys. I don't know them, but I will say that our SEO dominates locally. But they have some property managements that they deal with. I think they're pretty active, like on Yelp, if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, though, they had an issue with a client. And the client came to us and actually left us a bad review. So, like in situations like that, how do you handle them? Obviously, like if someone leaves you a bad Google review, there's not really a ton you can do to get in contact with them, unless you are, like, by the grace of God, given somebody who uses their actual user, like their actual name as their username. So we were blessed in that front. The guy actually had his name. So we reached out to him. This was like about a month removed, and we reached out to him through like Facebook Messenger. We found his Facebook, reached out and explained the situation. And like I said, a couple months later, like recently, he responded. At first, he thought we were just trying to circumvent blame. But then when I explained it to him, I was like, can you please give me like just 5 minutes to give you a call? And if it is us, like I'll fix it, whatever. We got on a call and suddenly he's like, you're not the guy I talked to. And I was like, no, I know. I'm trying to explain to you it's different. He's like, the things online, these people, they didn't communicate well with me. And I don't know what actually happened, but this is just the situation as the guy described it. I thought that they were just trying to circumvent blame. In the end, though, I did kind of lead him in the right direction. And from what I understand, they took care of him. So I don't know if they were completely briefed on what happened, but I think the guy just didn't know who to contact. He was an older guy. He didn't know who to contact. And so he searched up Tub Guys. Bathtub Guys came up because we're like, going national. We're going bigger now into new locations. Our SEO is just tighter. So we came up organically, and he saw Bathtub Guys, Tub Guys, same thing, right? Like, so he went, left the review, whatever, but then eventually got back with them, and kudos to them, they took care of it. But it's just weird. Like, how do you overcome that? And for me, it's like, realistically, in a situation like ours, we got lucky, right? We found the guys who wrote the thing. We found his Facebook. We were able to reach out to him and get that whole thing situated. But what do you do when you can't find the guy's Facebook if it doesn't exist? The first thing you can do, and this is really just a Hail Mary, although I do have something about this that I'll touch on after the fact, but it's just a Hail Mary. You could report the review. Report the review for being fake or disingenuous or not being a true review. If enough people report it, sometimes Google's algorithm will actually flag it for a human review. I have personally never seen it work successfully other than like a very specific time. And it was because that page that wrote us a bad review had also given another local competitor a 5-star review. So I think that they clearly saw that this was some sort of sign of like get back, right? Like someone like, I don't like that you're a competitor. I'm just going to write you a bad, phony review. Although now Google is beta testing, and this is exciting for people who have Google My Business. Google is beta testing an AI chatbot that helps with these kinds of issues and will escalate it to a human to chat with. For the longest, I think it's been like 7 or 8 years, there has been nothing that you can do to talk to a human other than put in a support ticket on Google My Business and hope that somebody gets back to you. And a lot of the times they just flat out don't. But this is a good sign that Google is listening, because it really is make or break for a lot of businesses. And especially with phony reviews, there's not a ton you can do. But the overarching thing that I want to get at, and I use that word a lot, overarching, but like my main point, what can you do? I think realistically, when we're using these outbound platforms, right, like our hands are really tied of how much we can do. Like that Google AI thing that might lead to a real person never will guarantee that you actually get a review removed. So what do? I think that we need to start as business people realizing the power that we actually have of getting the good voices out there. And I've talked about this way in the past, but it's come up recently again. This made me think about it. And I talk to other business owners constantly that have similar issues. And it's like, if you make 90% of the customers happy, but you piss off 10%, that's a big number, right? That is still, in the grand scheme of things, a very, very, very good split. But where does the problem come in, right? The problem comes in when you are letting only the negative voices represent what your company is actually like online. What I mean by that is you're not being very intentional about getting positive reviews. You don't have a review follow-up system. You're not just calling them and being like, hey, how was your experience? Cool. Can you leave me a review? And a lot of you aren't doing it because you don't want the callback. You don't want to call back, I should say, so that you don't get a callback, funny enough. So you don't want them to have an issue that they probably would have glossed over, but since you're asking, then you have to go back. And I think that's, number one, it's stupid, because if you're proactive about it, now they just believe you more. Like, your trust factor goes through the roof because you're being mindful of your work. And if you then tell them, no, this thing is no biggie, like, they believe you more. But if they go and they find something and then it is an issue, or even if it's not, because they found it and you weren't proactive about it, now they just don't trust you. They flat out don't believe anything you have to say. So what can you do in a situation where you get a bad review? So something that's not yours, something that maybe even is yours, but something maybe that's spam, or, like I said, something that you truly screwed up. The only thing I think you can do to combat that is to make sure that you're allowing a very easy path for the good voices, the positive voices, to also be heard, so that it's a level playing field. If you only have 2 or 3 5-star reviews, you are one star review from being tanked down to like being in the league of like shitty companies locally, whether you're in tub reglazing or in any other industry. But if you had 1,000 5-star reviews, you could have 100 1-star reviews and your rating would still be really good. And the point of that is just make sure you're giving a path for those customers who are happy with the work to leave positive feedback. Don't go and try to farm fake reviews. That doesn't work. Google purges fake reviews like once every 3 months. So some of you out there who buy reviews, like, it's very easy to see the ones who are buying reviews, because they'll have 500 reviews one day, and then 2 months from now they have 200 again. And it's just a constant cycle of buying fake reviews. And also, like, people are getting smarter and they're starting to realize that a lot of these fake reviews follow the same path. They, like, the people use the same exact wording. Like, it's clear that it's fake. You don't want to do anything fake, but you do want to push people to write reviews if they did have a positive experience. And I will say that a lot of the times you can ask them right when the job is complete. That is when your company is top of mind the most. So expect action around that time. If they are going to write it, it's probably within 7 days of the job being done. If you ask them right when the job was done, like I said, within 7 days, it's likely that if they're happy, they're actually going to voice a response and be happy. And then for you, what it does is it lets you know that, number one, that the customer, what their experience was genuinely like. I don't ask them to, hey, can you write me a 5-star review? I ask them, can you share your experience? And if it was less than a 5-star review, come to me so that we could make it right, so that I can earn that 5-star review. Because I'm not just trying to solicit. First of all, obviously, on my online presence, I want as much positive stuff out there as possible. But if someone didn't have a great experience, I'd rather them come to me than to trash me online. But on the other hand, though, if they feel strongly enough to genuinely think that I didn't earn it, I think that's perfectly fine. We have some 4 stars and some 3 stars. And honestly, we have a couple of 1 stars here in Orlando. You're never going to be able to make everybody happy. But what you can do and what you can control is how intentful you are, how much effort and time that you put into making sure you get those positive voices out there in the forefront, so that when something does happen, or you do get a local competitor who's a goober and tries to leave you a bad review, that you can, it doesn't destroy your entire business. That's basically my point. And this happened recently with a new location. So like in Texas, one of our more recent locations, they had such little reviews that when they got tanked with a couple, one of them was just a straight up like liar. One of them is like a local guy. I'm not going to name who it is, but it's a local guy who left a review and just straight up lied about what it is. And we found out who it was and we've reported it, but there's not much I can do. And then another one was a genuine customer thing where there was just miscommunications. And sometimes, if you're in the services, if you're in trades, if you're in anything having to do with customer service, you know that you're just not always able to make everybody happy, even when you go above and beyond. So there was a customer, she was offered a discount for the misunderstanding, and then she still went and like trashed the like company online. From what I understand, she's just like kind of just a, I'm not going to say the word, but you can imagine she was just nasty from the beginning, middle and end of the project. And she was honestly complaining about stuff that was out of the scope of the job anyway. And they agreed to do it as a courtesy, and they gave her a discount because she had threatened to write stuff online. And they were like, hey, if we can come to this agreement, we really care deeply about our reputation online. And, honestly, like, it means more than the money. And she still went and did that. So, like, these things, like I said, they sometimes happen, but the most important thing is to not let happen what happened to them over in Texas, where now they are like trying very hard to push positive reviews out there. Be proactive about it, not reactive. Then you don't have to scramble. And then also, in the meantime, right? Like if you have, and I use this example, but if you have 5 reviews that are all 5 stars and you get 2 1-stars, now you're a 3-star company locally, it's going to hurt your sales. And this is something that I was telling, and I said this in my coaching calls to the new locations, like you need to stay on top of it. You need to make sure that you're doing that because people want to work with reputable companies. And if you have 3 5-star reviews, even if they've been around for 2 or 3 years, even if they're all local guides, but 2 jackasses just write a 1-star review, but you've been in business for a super long time and haven't garnered any more reviews. I don't know about you, but as a business owner, if I see a company like that, even though they might do good work, they might be nice people, I think to myself, if they don't even care enough to mind their online reputation, they're probably not going to care much about my project. And that's just the truth. If you're not trying hard enough to care for that reputation online, how do I expect that you're going to care about my job if you don't even care about what you look like online? At the end of the day, this is the way the world works now. People want reputable companies. You need to have reviews. They need to be up to date. And you just need to be proactive about it. I think that most of these things, of these issues, can be avoided just by having some sort of system in place to make sure that you are not letting just the angry people speak. Make it a level playing field. If you know that out of 100 clients, 98 of them are ecstatic about you, but 2% of them you weren't able to make them happy, or you screwed up on the job and they hate you, that's okay. It literally is okay. Nobody bats 100% every single time. It's okay that you piss some people off. It's okay that you did a bad job 2% of the time. The point is, you don't let the 2% speak for the rest of the people and draw business away from your company. So I just wanted to touch on that real quick because I do think it's important. And again, in my pursuit, doing all this is like, most of it is to help other business owners. I think that that's something that people overlook just too much, have something to follow up. And a lot of the time that follow-up, by the way, for us anyway, like pursuing more reviews draws people to just do more business with us. How did the job go? It went great. I actually have another bathtub. I meant to call you. And then it turns into another job. And then if we don't, like if that's not the interaction, and it's like, oh, actually it's pretty bad, I want you to come look at it, then we just set it up right there. And now we don't have surprise warranty calls. We take control of the situation. Hey, Martha, we can't come out Tuesday, but we can come out the following Monday and take care of it for you. And I'm so sorry that happened. And there's not this weird urgency on the customer side where they feel like you're a scammer. Because that's the first thing people think when the job comes out less than desirable is that I hired some fucking scammer. That tension goes away because you took you took initiative and you reached out. And so now it's like, no, they're just going to take care of it. It eases their mind. And again, because you're proactive about it, if when you show up over there, it is kind of a nonsense kind of a thing, you can acknowledge that, you know what it is, what the reality of the situation is, and they're more inclined to believe you because you didn't let them just sit there and find it, right? You called and you asked, and then you took that initiative and that step. And the only types of companies that do that are the ones who have morals. You know what I mean? So just something to keep in mind for you guys. If you're, a business owner, I think it's really important to kind of handle that. And that's just kind of how we overcome it. We just flood it with good reviews, make sure that our customers who are happy have a voice too. So one thing I do want to touch on too, and this is just because like I get a lot of people who see what I do, and think that it's easy, that like running a service company is just a walk in the park. And I do want to say, like, for a lot of people who haven't tried to run an operation as like complex logistically as this, from the outside looking in, it can look easy, but you have a lot of situations sometimes where you really, like, when you're in it and you've been doing it so long, you're kind of desensitized to how hard it really is. For me, running my show here has become second nature. It's easy because I do it all the time, right? It's a complex game. You have something that is, when you build it, it is a solid foundation with a lot of moving pieces where there's not just one piece that can derail the entire thing, right? There's not one card holding the entire house of cards. And if you pull that one thing out, everything collapses. But in the beginning, building this is so fragile, and a lot of people don't really understand how fragile it is until they try it. So here's the situation, right? You hire first you start your business, okay? And you're answering the phone and you're booking jobs. And the first thing that happens, and this has happened with a number of our locations, this situation in particular, you're booking jobs, closing them, you're doing the work, and it's a lot, but you're booking for yourself, and you're booking for Monday through Friday, a job a day, maybe 2 jobs a day if you're really ambitious. Then I've talked about this before, but then one thing starts suffering in favor of the other, right? You have, you're not able to handle the phone as effectively because you are on the job. You are not able to remember to order product on time because you're on the job. And now you're doing 2 jobs. You're doing the labor and you're doing the phone call. So you think, okay, cool. Well, I guess I'll just hire a phone person, or I guess I'll just hire a field technician. And then either way, you have to go through the motions of this. This is the real world is trial and error. And what we do is trial and error at scale, with what we've learned. But anyway, you go and you say, okay, let's say I'm going to hire a technician. Cool. Find a guy, put out an ad, or to find a guy, you put out an ad, 50 candidates. You're sifting through a lot of bullshit, really. You're sifting through a lot of bullshit until you get to somebody who's decent, or a small, short list of guys who are decent. You say, I'm going to interview this guy. He has the experience. He's responded to the ad, so the money obviously isn't a problem, this, that, and the third. And so you set up a day. Hey, can you come by Monday? Oh, yeah, of course I'll be there on Monday. I'm super excited for this opportunity, yada, yada, yada. Monday comes and goes, guy never shows up. So now what do you do? Because you're in a weird conundrum where you just booked extra work, or you booked a schedule in a way with a purpose so that you can show somebody, so you can shadow them and show them the way on how to do the thing to get you out of the conundrum of being the guy who's running the entire show by yourself, right? What you do in that case scenario is suck it up and go and just do it yourself. And then you try again. The reality is there is no shortcut there, right? You can't just let it all drop unless you have an insane amount of resources behind you. And even then it's still difficult because now there's the mental like anguish about it where it's like, Cool. Now we have to start from zero, do it all over again. But like, for example, like, you try a guy and let's say it happens the other way, right? Where you try the guy, you hire him, you spend a couple of weeks training him. And this has happened to me a bajillion times. And I'm talking about it because it's recently happened in more than one place. I'm again, real quick, I'm talking about it not to like make light of it or anything, just to say like I'm gonna talk about how to get over it, right? But you train the guy, he's been there for like 2 weeks, he absorbs everything, and then when you leave him out in the wild by himself, you learn that he really doesn't know how to do the job that well. And that's happened to me personally here in Orlando multiple times over the last couple months. I've hired like 4 guys and one of them has stuck. Or the other side of the coin where it's does the job great, but just a shitty attitude, or he's just not reliable. And then you have to think, geez, did I just waste all this time training somebody, get them up to speed, get them capable of doing the work, but they're still just not going to be a fit here? And the answer is yes, and that's what it takes to grow a business. 100%. It happens all the time. In Bathtub Guys, in Bathtub Guys in Orlando, there's probably been like 35 technicians that have worked at this company at one point. And when I say worked, I'm saying like they just worked, right? Like they had a week here, maybe a year here, maybe a couple months. But throughout the history, there's been a ton of people who have worked here. And I'd say the fact that we have like 7 technicians here, realistically, there's a core that's kind of been around for a minute. And most of the guys who actually do stay for a while. I'd say that's a pretty good retention rate. But a lot of things have to jive for that to work, right? The company culture needs to be like understood. They need to have the work ethic that matches what the output is based off of your expectation. They need to be competent enough to have their livelihood. There's a lot of moving pieces in building it, but like, and I always say like the comeback is greater than the setback. And realistically, however you decide to go about it, when you decide that you want to try and build something bigger than you need to come to grips with that you're never going to find somebody else who's exactly like you, who has the same ambition level. I've talked about this before, because their logo is not on that building. It's yours. It's your business. The financial paperwork, it says your name. It doesn't say their name. So they're never going to care as much as you do. But what you can do is find someone who's willing to put 50% up here, 30% there, 20% there, and build something that is enough for you if they have some of the other characteristics 100%. It's like attributes in a game, right? Like a video game where somebody might, like I'll use like NBA 2K, right? Like somebody might have 90% shooting, but like that's only for mid-range, and their like 3-point shot is like a third of that because they're just not a 3-point shooter. Like that's the truth in the trades too. You might have a guy who's crazy good at communicating, can do the job to an acceptable level, but is a slowpoke. But can you work with a slowpoke? 100%. I'd work with a slowpoke any freaking day of the week, because at the end of the day, I will accommodate the schedule in a way where it would make sense to keep a guy like that. Because he has 2/3 of the accolades I'm looking for. Accolades that I'm looking for. On the other front too, you might have a guy who, see, this is when it's hard to work with these people, because I've had these people too. They do everything well from the application. They're fast, they're efficient, but they lack on 2 very important factors that cannot be overlooked. Their attitude is like shit. Their customer service is like shit. To you, as the business owner, they're just like, just attitude doesn't jive. And then again, with the customer stuff, customers just hate them. That is also another factor, 100%, that it's like, I'd rather work with the slowpoke who's probably costing me a little bit more because he's just not as efficient, than the guy who can do everything, do it at a crazy high level and high efficiency, but his attitude is like shit, because you can't work with that. So again, we're just trying to build a team of people. And when you're building that team of people, you are going to inevitably run into somebody who doesn't work out. And I would caution anybody out there who's ever run a business, or someone who's ever even thought about running a business. Do you think that the first person that you'd hire in a specific role is going to be the one that's going to do it forever? What are the odds that the first person that you hire in a specific role actually ends up panning out? I would say for most businesses across the entire world, it's probably like, I would imagine it's probably in like the low teens. I cannot imagine it's like higher than 10% that the first person you hire at a company sticks around for the long haul. It almost never happens, because keep in mind, in this scenario, in this context, you are also new at business. So you don't know what the proper way to handle people is, what to look for when hiring, what the cues are. You're new to this industry. What little quirks are specific to people in this trade that you might want to look out for, what those red flags are. And a lot of the time we learn it after we messed up, which is why now I can kind of gauge it early on. And even then I talked about it in recent podcasts, but like I've had like 3 or 4 guys come here for training. They do okay. One of them did horrible. He had the opposite. He had amazing customer service. People loved him, but he sucked at the work. I had other guys who great at the work, shitty attitude, and this, that, and the third. And then we're funneling through it until eventually we find that diamond in the rough that ticks enough boxes that he can be part of the team. Not everybody needs to be your star player, though. At the end of the day, you're a team captain as the owner. You're the manager, right? Like using baseball terms, like you're the manager. Not everyone has to be your Shohei Ohtani, right? Not everyone needs to be your star player, but you have a couple platoon guys that can get the stuff done. And then when you really need that all-star player out there, then you have a guy that's your right hand who checks almost every box, right? And still will never care as much as you do, but more than the average bear. And you can build with that. But if your idea is that you're going to bat 1,000 every single time, you're going to hire somebody that's always going to work out and it's just going to be perfect, that's just not realistic when it comes to service businesses, especially because this is something that requires a lot of mental energy on the sales front, and following procedures and client communication stuff, which not everyone is good at. And then on the other front, on the technician side, it does involve some manual labor, granted not insane manual labor, but still manual labor. It involves knowledge of coatings and their application, learning from somebody else who, their method of teaching might not stick with you. Maybe it doesn't or doesn't make sense. There might be language barriers sometimes where, we've had it where we hire guys who are 100% Spanish, and I speak Spanish, so I don't have a problem hiring someone that speaks Spanish, but sometimes clients can't communicate effectively with them. So these are all things that we look at, and it's tricky. But the theme here is that Rome wasn't built in a day. It never will be. And when it comes to successful service companies, it all starts on acknowledging that it's probably going to take longer than you expected, and it's going to be very, very hard until it's not. Once you have the system laid out, you have good people in positions to win, and you keep festering that like environment for growth, it will just grow. But you have to have those blocks and build a steady foundation so that you can get to that point. And at the end of the day, even technicians, like if you have a run-in with a shitty technician who you tried out and he ghosted you, or he just doesn't want to work, or he has a bad attitude, like a lot of the times those guys do that stuff from insecurity. They can feel, like a technician can feel when there is instability, believe it or not. They can feel it. They can feel when things just aren't quite right. And so when you have your company culture dialed in, when you have your infrastructure of who's handling sales and how does that work, what's the organization look like as far as like actually organizing, right? Like who's in charge of A, B, and C? Where do I get product? What do I do if I'm out of gas? And all these things are covered. It makes them feel more secure because number one, they don't have to be asking you questions to be heard. You already know their concerns before they even like work with you. And then the other side of the coin is it makes their job easier because they can focus on those things that maybe they're not the best at, but they don't have to think about all these stupid little minute details that they used to have to think about at their other job. And this is why, like, to this day, most of the talent in the world is still taken up by companies, and most of the talent in the world is probably an employee somewhere, because people want to work on winning teams. There's people who lead winning teams. There's people who work in winning teams. And I bring up like Apple and like Steve Jobs a lot, right? Like Steve Jobs, genius guy, brilliant marketer, and brilliant at execution. But Steve Jobs wasn't the guy who designed the iPhone. You have a bunch of guys getting paid, probably comparatively to Steve Jobs, not that great, to get a task done to build this device. And year after year, we need to make it better and smaller and charge faster and this, that, and the third. But it always gets done. But why does it always get done? Because the culture fits, the people fit. They want to work on a team with other winners. Certain things are thought about, like those campuses. They have, like those guys get like a lot of the time, like they get like perks where they can like eat there for free. You don't have to think about that. A lot of them get probably, decent benefits. A lot of them get paid relative to Steve Jobs, probably not a ton, but relative to what a worker would get paid, handsomely. And so in a situation like that, you can build an all-star team without needing a bunch of guys who are exactly like you, who like are visionaries like you, or have this big dream and ambition like you. So I say all this to say, at the end of this, what we're doing with Bathtub Guys and expanding might look super easy. You might think, gee, I do A, B, and C. I can just pop up somewhere, run ads, and have a thriving business making $100K a month like you. And I would say that like anyone can, but not everyone can. So you have to have the right kind of mentality. You have to put good people who have similar ambition and goal, and honestly, like pain tolerance to get through a certain hump in business so that you can get to that next level, so that everything keeps flowing and growing like it's supposed to. But most of you would probably never be able to fully do it the same way, not just as us, but like other companies that have expanded. It is insanely difficult. I went through 2 years of eating shit in multiple different facets of business to land on a model that more or less works. And that is what we're doing now. When I say more or less, it's like it works, but it also is dependent on the individual who is manning the ship, right? On how well it works. It's going to work either way. But I say all this to say that if you are thinking about your business in the foreseeable future and you don't see your own ability to turn it into, obviously you don't have to think national, but even just dominate locally, have 5, 6, 7 dudes that work for your business. You own it, operate it. Maybe you just do sales. Maybe you just do the phone calls. Maybe eventually you step away from it and you are just kind of hands-off business owner. If you're not confident in your ability to build systems to get that outcome, but that is the outcome you want, and you're in the bathtub refinishing industry or in any other trade, but something like this interests you, there is business opportunities to work with us. So you can email service@bathtubguys.com, get in touch with me and see what it might look like to get your own Bathtub Guys location, or you can text or call me. My phone number is 689-271-9934. You can call me, text me, and we can talk about what that would look like. But I do think for a lot of people, the part of building the foundation is the hardest. And that's why we've taken a lot of that guesswork out. when we do the things that we do by the book. But growing too fast is just as bad as growing too slow. And so I always talk about guys who haven't done anything, and what a shame that all these guys haven't moved in the industry. And the truth is, a lot of them haven't done it because it's insanely hard. And even I sometimes forget how hard it is. It is insanely hard. Like, to an extent, like the guys need me, but I need them as much, right? We're like self-reliant on each other. But what happens if today 3 of 5 technicians, like assigned to a hotel, for example, just decide they're not going to go? What do you do? Do you have the infrastructure in place to have it not completely derail everything that you're working at? These are things that we have thought of. These are things that we have encountered. These are things that we can help kind of guide you through. You have someone no call, no show. How is it handled? In the beginning, it's you, but how do you avoid it happening again? You have 3 or 4 guys, and maybe one of the guys is purposely on a lighter schedule most of the time, so that you can react easily and expect things to go wrong, so that you have something in place for when that happens, so that you don't look like a dummy. Maybe you have, and we've done this, maybe you have a rotational schedule where it's busy, but I need to have one technician who's not super busy in case technician A over there shits the bed. And if that happens, then there's a guy who can swoop in and make sure things are right. Maybe you have a supervisor who's like a working foreman, which we've also done, who they work every day, a lighter schedule. Part of their responsibilities is to look at what the other techs are doing and make sure they're keeping up quality. But because he's always on a lighter schedule, again, if something happens where somebody screws up bad, or they didn't make it, or they're out sick, there is somebody there to make sure that these situations get handled. And then there's going to be times where you just can't handle everything. And at that point, what do you do on the customer service side? How do you handle that whole thing? These are all things that, we know how to tackle, and we can get you through them. But you have to follow the things that we show you, and you're not going to fully grasp everything until you try and fail. The true answer is you have to keep on trying and keep on trying and keep on trying, and build the thing up yourself to a certain point with our guidance, so that you can have that issue pop up and it doesn't completely wreck your entire business. So I'm going to leave that point there. I do think it's really important, though, because, look, it's not, again, like I said before, Rome wasn't built in a day. I've been through every single shit show that's imaginable in business. I've told the story a million times. We had 700 tubs fail at a hotel for Universal Studios. We've had a bajillion issues, but we have more wins than losses. And at the end of the day, all those things are lessons that we take into the future. But one thing I have learned is that hiring people is a skill in of itself. It is a skill that you need to practice. It is something where, when I hire someone, I'm not just hiring a candidate. I have a short list, and every single one gets told, yes, we are going to try you out and see if you're a good fit. You're on a probationary period. And then from there, I'm weeding out people based off on how they start. We are systematic about the way we do things. And sometimes, if you try it and fail doing it a slightly alternative way, it can feel like doom and gloom and like the whole world's collapsing on you. But the truth is, those are just bumps in the road. You always will know how to do the work if you learn the trade, right? So nothing could ever fully keep you from the bare minimum of feeding your family. But if you want bigger and better, you're only going to get there by taking those bruises, man, taking those hits on the chin like a champ, and just continuing on, and that's life. So last thing I actually wanted to talk about was a couple things. I wanted to talk about why I love the bathtub refinishing industry, people in it. I've met some really cool people in the industry, and also just some misconceptions that people have about me. Look, gonna touch on the positives first. You know, in this industry, there's a lot of really, really good people. People who honestly, and I would say this is true probably even for me, not probably, definitely even for me, would probably not be doing as well if they weren't in this industry. I do believe that, you know, I'm probably smarter than your average bear. You know, like I've done a lot of cool, like nice, ambitious things that have helped grow my business. And so would I be successful somewhere else? Maybe. But I do think that part of the thing that is awesome about this industry is there's a lot of good people. A lot of people I have talked a lot about the naysayers, like the negative people who just don't share like information and advice and don't talk to people. And for those of you who are like that, you know who those people are. I mean, you know, if you're one of them, and the people who have been in this industry for a while, you know who those people are. A lot of people who are like gatekeeper types. But on the flip side, there's a ton of people who are open and honest about what the industry is really like. And a lot of them have helped guide me in a lot of ways. I always bring up the example, but Danny Garcia from Alliance Bath and now Ace Renovation and Roots of Ambition podcast too. I'm giving him all the shout outs because that's the homie. Just on the business side, like probably no better contact that you can have than a guy like that. He really is the guy that when I started really looking at this industry seriously, when I took it, you know, when I took this business over, as like the blueprint of what I wanted to be like. And I developed my own style and my own way of doing things, but seeing a guy like that, meeting a guy like that, and then eventually becoming friends with a guy like that, I think just helped propel me and push me further. People who are really big on the actual application stuff, like Ruben with Surface Pro Refinishing is like with the cabinet stuff and the tub stuff, like fine finish application to no end, and a lot of stuff about application methods and different like tools and equipment. When I used to spray, I'd ask him questions and he's super helpful. Even though I had like a little, I wouldn't say beef isn't really the right word, but a little run-in with George Picot from Top Coat. Like he's also another one where when I needed advice about grouting and repair, like he always was willing to help. And so there's a lot of people out there who are not super gatekeeper types who will try and help you. And I do like that about this industry. It is kind of tight-knit in a way where there is a lot of people who are willing to help. But I will say that it's almost exclusively on the applications side of things and the like field work stuff. I think there's not a ton of people who talk about the business side. And I think because the guys who have made it in the business side, and I just dropped my notes, so excuse me, and I moved the camera over, but it's okay. We're going to rock with it. Let me move it back. Whoa. See that? A lot of them, I don't think they even know why they're successful. And I also think that they believe that if they gave out the information, kind of like similar to how I do on this podcast, right? I give the information out basically for free on the podcast, that someone's just going to take it and it's going to negatively affect them, or that it's going to like take food out of their mouth. And what I've learned is that from giving away everything that I've learned, I am attracting more people to my business for Bathtub Guys expansion stuff than any way and shape of anybody trying to rip off what I'm doing. Because at the end of the day, and excuse me there, I made a post about this like recently, but there is a big amount of people who can have the playbook right in front of them on how to run their business and how to grow it, and they'll never even pick the freaking thing up and read it, even if it's right there open in front of them. Obviously metaphorically, but you know what I mean. Like they can see the door that says successful business, just walk through, and they just never will, because some people just aren't like built for that. Some people just don't want the next big thing. They don't want to build a really, really, really big business. And that's fine. I do think that most entrepreneurs in general, just to not contradict things I've said in the past, I do think a lot of them just don't want to. They don't want to be the only one working in their business. I do believe that to be true. I don't think anyone set out on entrepreneurship to own a job, but the two things can be, mutually exclusive. Like, you can want a bigger business than just you, but not want a gigantic enterprise. And so I do believe that some of those guys who are gatekeepers, they became successful, and they think that if they gave it out, that's them giving away their secret recipe for success. And I just don't think that that's true, but I think that's what they believe. And I think the other subject of people who are gatekeeper types are people who are not successful, but they're really good at the work, and they think that gatekeeping is what's going to get them to the next level, ironically. So that's the part of the industry where, like, there's a lot of yahoos and dummies, and then there's like the core of the bathtub refinishing industry is a lot of good, hardworking people. I will say, though, on the business side, there is not nearly enough people doing the thing that I do, or that a couple of others do, where we try and uplift other people on the business side. And I think that's genuinely because there's not enough people that are doing well in the industry for that to be like a thing. I think most people treat it like a 9-to-5, even if they own the business, and they will eventually retire. And I say this joke sometimes, but die in the freaking tub. Like, it's jokes, but it's also serious. Like, I don't want to see that for people, but because I love this industry and a lot of the people in it, even if I've had a run-in with you in the past. And with that and the things that I preach sometimes on here comes like scrutiny, and I get it to an extent. When we started rolling out Tubcast in the beginning, when we were like, we're going to sell it to some refinishers and see how that whole thing goes. From the beginning of my working relationship with Patrick, he said, I don't want to be like a Midwest Chemical or a Top Coat or a NAPCO. I don't want to be like that. I want to sell it to every single person under the sun, because realistically, most people won't train on how to use it properly. And then they'll assume, well, I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. And so they're going to go and use it without getting trained. Then they're going to have issues. Then they're going to call him, and he's going to have to give paint away and keep urging them to do training, or let them fuck it up enough times and give enough free paint that eventually, like, they're like, oh, look, I finally figured it out. Now I'm going to be like a loyal customer. And I never really saw it that way, because I thought everyone operated their business like how I operate mine. And so this goes into like misconceptions about me. So bear with me with this little story time here, but I thought everyone ran their business how I do, where, like, if I'm doing something, everyone is going to get shown how to do it. We are going to slow roll into it. We're going to test it, make sure that it's good. I'm not assuming that I know all the answers. And once I know, I'm putting together a real training kind of program with it so that I can teach the rest of my guys how to do this effectively. But no, that's not the truth, man. It goes back to guys running this thing like it's a 9-to-5. You look at the product, and because the DIY product is now the same, and I talked about this before, it hasn't always been the same, but for Refinish Bath Solutions, it was just easier to produce one roll-on product rather than two different ones, and we improved the original one so much, especially now with like the new Tubcast 2.0 stuff. It's like, it just made sense for it to be the same, and I don't really care, because I know that the DIY customer is not going to be my customer. I just know it, because anyone who's looking for a $100 fix is not going to pay, is never going to pay $500. So why does it matter? But beside the point, he never wanted to, because he foresaw this issue, and I thought everyone would just do it how I do it. And so we started rolling out Tubcast, and we got some people onboarded, and there's a few who still use it because they came and got trained. But every single person who bought it and didn't get trained had issues. And we did try some things, and I will take ownership of that. This was me trying to kind of help rectify the situation. Is like we did virtual trainings where we're showing them over the phone. But what it surprised me and just shocked me to no end was guys did the virtual training, cool. Then they go out and keep using it. And then they have issues. And then they have not one issue, not two issues, not three issues. Guys have 15 issues over the span of like 3 months ago. So like not even like super recent, like 3 months ago. And then they decide to not tell me about it, to tell people I know about it. And I just cannot fathom how it does not get to me first, or Patrick first, or Refinish Bath Solutions first. I just don't understand. I don't know if people think that like I'm the boogeyman, or like I'm like scary or something. But like in that context, how can I want anyone to explain to me how I help you now. If you waited 3 months after screwing up 3 months worth of work, so let's say January, February, March, you used a product and you had issues January, February, and March, and now April, May, June came around, and now in June you're telling me you had issues way back when on a ton of jobs in January, February, March. How am I supposed to help you now? Like, number one, we urged almost every single person who bought to come and do training. We offered trainings for free. We offered to fly people out for trainings. We offered to fly people to people for trainings. And most people turned it down, or like gave me like an empty yes, and like never actually solidified anything. So that's a problem, right? Because like when the guys over at Alliance Bath used it, for example, they have a big operation. I offered that. They said no, but they also were with us when we were in the beginning stages of development, and they were asking a ton of questions and getting a lot of feedback from us on how to apply it properly. And before it ever touched the field, Richard over there used it like 15 times in the shop to make sure he fully understood how this thing worked. That's how we did it. I just assumed that's how everyone would do it. But no, people were out there doing it on jobs and having issues and then reporting it, not even to me directly. See, this is where people get like misconstrued. Not reporting it to me directly, reporting it to people that they know that I know to tell me, which I just think is the weirdest thing ever. Like, why wouldn't you tell me? Because again, how am I supposed to help you now? Like, I can't help you. Who lets something linger like that for 3 months and then just doesn't report? And there's like multiple people that this happened to, and I'm just like, I feel bad because they're like, my hands are tied. Like, this can't happen this way. So I had a situation, and this is where like, again, the misconceptions of me come in. The guy called me an asshole, says I'm an asshole. He also says like I brag about my money, which is hilarious because number one, like I do okay, but I'm nowhere near like flaunting wealth type. I talk about my wins in business, but that doesn't necessarily translate to Daniel Montalvo's individual net worth. Anyone who runs a business knows it's expensive as shit to run a business. Never to the point of flaunting it. Like, I'm wearing a freaking Seiko watch, dude. I'm not like, it's a $300 watch. It's not a fucking Rolex or some crazy shit. That being said, though, like, guys calling me an asshole, guys going to people that I know and saying things, people who are friends of mine, and saying things and just like honestly outright lying. So the guy out of New York lies about coming to training. He was in town for family in Miami, and he also had like a foot problem where he needed like surgery or something and couldn't like walk on his foot. And so he bought paint. This was at like the end of the year. He was like around for like New Year's or something like that, if I remember correctly. It was like end of the year or early 2026. So December 2025 or early 2026. And by the way, he's calling me an asshole now in like June of 2026. Last year around like August, he bought paint. He keeps telling me he has issues getting the finish to look how we make it look. So that's the first thing. I can't get the finish to look how you guys are doing it. I gave him some pointers and some advice and offered to do training. He's like, I'll come back. I'll come down for training. And I told him, like, this is a thing he lied about too, but I told him the training is free. Like, you come over here and it's free. Like, I'm not going to charge you to train. I only charge people who want to be Bathtub Guys locations because it's my time and a technician's time for a whole week. So, like, it's 2 weeks of me dedicating everything to you. But in this case scenario, we didn't do that. And I told the gentleman to come by. And he just drops by like a single day. The first time he comes over here, a single day, to roll a tub on in my shop. And it came out like kind of bad. And he was just like, oh, no, now I kind of get it. I can work with it. Oh, you're doing this, this, and this. Okay, cool. I think I can work with that. And then he just leaves. So this was like right around the time they bought paint the first time. Well, I think they only bought paint once. Funny enough, they only bought paint once. It was around like that, like late summer, early fall 2025. And they bought a 12-pack, just so that you're aware. They bought 12 kits of paint. Okay? This wasn't like they bought a shit ton. They didn't buy a pallet. They bought 12 kits of paint. Then they go back, and it's radio silence for like the rest of the time. I don't hear anything back from them. And that's fine. Like, it is what it is. So they buy 12 packs, and then from like August of 2025 to like late December, I hear nothing. And then at some point in late December, he reaches out and saying, I did 30 jobs with this or some shit like that, which doesn't make any sense because he only bought 12 kits because I pulled up his order. And every single job is peeling or failing. And I'm like, can you explain to me like exactly what's going on? No, it's just coming off. And even the ones that I did, and people are upset and this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, do you think it would help if you got training? He's like, well, I went over there for the training. I'm like, that was not the freaking training, dude. That's not the coming over here and painting a tub in the shop is not training. I'm not the guy who paints up. Then he's asking me all these questions. And look, I know some things about the coatings. I am not a tub refinisher. I am a tub refinishing company owner. And there's two big differences there, okay? I know what my strong suit is. And if you had any business question under the sun, I'm your guy. Santiago, the guy who trains guys, who's a technician, who's been dealing with these coatings for freaking 2 decades, he is the guy to ask about stuff like that. So he's like, well, what can we do? I was like, you can come train with Santiago if you want. Comes by. I was like, yeah, bro, I'm not going to charge you. He's like, I'll see if I can get a couple days together, whatever. He comes, and it's either late December or early after New Year, something like that. He's down here in Miami, had a foot thing where he could barely walk. Guy comes by. He comes to the shop again for a day. And then I was like, well, do you want to go to a job site? Yeah, I'll go to a job site. So he goes to a job site where Santiago is and sees how he rolls it. And calls me. He's like, man, this is amazing. Like, I didn't even know he could look like this. That guy Santiago, man, he's special, bro. Like, he's doing some stuff I never seen. I took a lot of pictures and videos and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. The next day, he only goes to see Santiago buff and polish a job. That's all he went to go see. Same thing. Oh, man, when you buff and polish, it looks really good. This is awesome. Like, I feel like I learned a lot. Cool. And I was like, are you going to be by like the rest of the week to like, you know, to get a chance to roll it so you can actually try? No, I've seen enough. Literally his word. I've seen enough. Oh, no, I know what I'm doing now. I think I know what I'm doing wrong. He goes back home. Remember, he told me he did like 30 jobs and they failed. Or told somebody like to tell me. Although I do think he communicated that to me too at some point, which was what geared all this. But still, he's talking to other people too to tell me when he's telling me. And anyone who knows me knows I'm really responsive. But on the other side, he goes back home. starts using paint again. Again, he has not reordered. He hasn't reordered. So out of the 30 jobs, he had only bought 12 kits. How could he have done 30 jobs and have paint left over to go back home and try? He does a sink, and he says that the paint doesn't look the same, the primer. Calls me and is like, dude, this primer is not the same. And I was like, what do you mean? Send me a picture. I'm like, oh, well, that's the old primer, dude. Like, he's like, well, but you guys changed the primer? I was like, yeah, we told everyone when we did it. Well, I didn't know. I was like, how do you still have old inventory? He's like, well, I still have the paint that I originally bought. And I was like, okay, well, if you're using that primer, you need to put 2 coats on it. You need to give it a coat, let it dry, and then give it another coat to have enough build on there, because the original primer needed to be applied that way. And he was like, well, can't you just make a phone call and get me the new primer? And I'm like, no. I was like, you could buy a new primer if you want. He's like, but why should I get to buy the new primer? I have defective product, is what he said. And I'm like, no, you don't. You have the old product, and now there is a new one. And he's like, oh, but obviously you guys stopped using it for a reason. I was like, because we made a better version. I was like, dude, you don't get to fucking drive around a 2025 fucking Mustang and then complain when the 2026 comes out and it doesn't have the same features. Like, it's different. It got better. But you've been holding on to inventory since August of fucking last year, and now you're coming to me saying I've had all these problems, and oh, by the way, like, I'm having these problems on the new job, and I'm calling Santiago and he doesn't know how to help me. Dude, what am I supposed to do with that? Number one, nothing is adding up. Everything just feels like a lie. And at the end of the day, if you would have just been honest, like, there was a resolution that we could have had. But at the end of the day, like, when people just say things that aren't true to try and get their way, it is super hard to work with them, because you're just going to end up in a vicious cycle. And so this, I don't know what it is, but this misconception of me and how I am, everybody who knows me knows that I am like one of the nicest people. I really care for people who are friends of mine and even others. This is why I do this. This is a free platform that I go and I talk business advice and I give it out all for free. And they know that I'm like, no, I'm a no bullshit kind of guy. And it infuriates me when people bullshit me. But it also takes a lot for me to get like loud and upset. And this individual got upset because I got a little loud with him, because he was like, oh, I think you guys should replace it. That's what anyone would do. That's what I would do. And I'm just like, dude, again, that's not even my department, bro. Go tell Refinish Bath Solutions that. They're the ones that make it. They might replace it for you, but you're talking to the wrong guy anyway. Like, realistically, this should have been ironed out last year when you bought the paint, not you trying to figure it out now. And I was like, you complaining to me almost like, what is it, 6 months down the line that you had issues 3 months ago and never reported it. When I asked him why he never reported it, he just said he got busy. Well, like, was it that big of a deal? Like, it's such a big deal now. Why wasn't it a big deal when it was happening? It's just weird. Things didn't add up. But at the end of it, this misconception that I'm like this like mean dude or who's like going to like go ballistic on you is just not the case. I don't know like why people just can't come to me directly. At this point, like, I'm just done with it. And I see now that like Patrick was right. People will not train on the product, buy the product, complain about the product, refuse training again, not come to you with their issues, but gossip about you behind closed doors. And it's just the weirdest fucking thing ever. Because if I had a problem from a paint manufacturer and everything I tried on maybe not 1 or 2 or 3, but 4, 5 or 6 jobs, I'm calling and I'm fucking complaining. I'm not waiting until it turns into a catastrophe to come and bitch about it. So I just do not understand how certain people operate their business. But again, this misconception of the type of person I am, I decided that I'm only going to deal with people who got trained, and those are the people who we work with now, and everybody else is a Bathtub Guys location. And that's pretty much how it's going to be. And he told a friend of mine that I talk to almost every day that I'm like an asshole, that I flaunt money. Dude, this guy came into my office, and everything that comes out of this guy's mouth, first of all, like, he comes in, like, and I don't care because I got a chain and shit, but like with a chain and like, you know, iced out kind of watch and shit. Like, and it's like, okay. And then he just keeps talking about how he works in high-end places and all his customers have crazy expectations and this, that, and the third. And come to find out that another subset of guys that we train for Tubcast, which are these Jewish dudes from New York who do like primarily like 99% Section 8 housing, subcontract work to him. Come on, bro. Hang it up. Like, why are we putting on facades and shit? And again, anyone who knows me knows that the last thing I talk about is money. Because number one, I have some of it, not a lot of it. And like, even if I was like a multi-millionaire, I wouldn't, that's just not the type of person I am, bro. Anyone who knows me knows Daniel's notorious for wearing fucking Crocs, bro. Like, I hang out, I wear my polo, I wear some fucking shorts, and I wear Crocs. I'm a Florida ass motherfucker. Like, I'm not out here flaunting shit. I'm not over here talking about what I have and what you don't have. The issue, and I think what bothered him, is that he put on this facade as if he does work for high-end clientele, when all he ever posts and all he ever like talked to me about was the Section 8 housings, and saying that they have insanely high standards in Section 8, which to me is insane. But he started telling me about, well, I'm having all these issues with the paint, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. He's like, is it just bad? Is like how it is? And I'm like, bro, do you think that I would have 11 locations using this freaking product if it wasn't working? That would be stupid of me. And he's like, well, I don't know, man. Like, you guys are doing well, and like maybe you just don't notice it or whatever. I'm like, bro, we work in like 5-star resorts who pay like $800 for a fucking bathtub. I would know if there was an issue. And I think that's what like tipped them off to be like angry and then like make it seem like I'm the one talking about this, that, and the third, as far as money and stuff goes. Anyway, I don't know what it is. I do love and respect everyone in this industry. I want to see you guys win, and that's why I do this, and that's why I do this podcast. But the misconception that I'm like an asshole or like rude, like, I just think that comes from people who either just don't. I think that comes from people who like can't handle somebody actually standing up for themselves and using logic and reason. And they just can't have an adult conversation. So everything that's a rebuttal to their question, like an actual, like if you say, hey, well, I'm having issues with the paint, and I say, hey, so why didn't you tell me before? If you're not adult enough to have that conversation, then I'm an asshole in your world. You know what I mean? Because I asked the question, instead of just bending over and saying, yes, Mr. Sir, I'll just replace that on the double. Like, because I asked the question and pissed him off, now I'm an asshole because he says, oh my God, I do all these super high-end places and I'm having all these issues. And he also like just kept putting down that I do residential work, which is hilarious. That's like another point where he's like, well, you just do residentials, bro. I'm doing high-end. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about, bro? What are you talking about? Where do you have to be more meticulous? What are you even talking about? Also, I do volume. I also do volume. But at the end of the day, what bothered me the most, because I don't really care what an individual thinks of me. I don't even really care what people think about me. But people in general, not even just towards me, who would rather talk behind someone's back than just bring it to their doorstep. If you have a problem with something that I do, that someone else does, instead of talking about it in the back rooms, instead of talking to middlemen who know me so you know it gets to me, but you don't want to tell me directly, just be a man, own your shit, and freaking tell me. Because if you don't, then there's literally nothing I can do to help you. Literally nothing. And if you do tell me, then odds are I'm way more well equipped to help you. But then again, like I said, at this point, I'm done with it. My Bathtub Guys locations know how to use it. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. At this point, all I care about is that they know how to use it. That's why I won't sell to any of you. That's why Patrick is not really selling to any of you. There's only a select few that buy it, and those ones got trained. And it's not ironic that every single person that's gotten trained, actual training, came here for a week, likes the product and uses it, and the people who haven't are honestly people who aren't that serious about their business in the first place, treat it like just a job, but they're also not willing to complain to me. And I think it's because they know that they didn't get trained and they know what I'm about to tell them, but they'll complain to other people. It's just not an adult conversation. The context of this thing is very childish and stupid. And yeah, just be an adult, dude. Own your shit. Tell me. At this point, don't tell me because it's not going to change anything. But in the future, if you have an issue, don't let 7 months pass by. Report it right away, because if not, it's just useless. And I'm going to leave it there with this episode. I appreciate you guys coming through and watching. I will see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Bathtub Refinishing Podcast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to keep up with the Bathtub Guys on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, or visit bathtubguys.com for more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.